give you hints along the way, and you come up with a diagnosis. First hint, typically the problems are going to be on this lateral claw, either in the white line or in that ulcer area, but not today's. This is going to be on the medial claw, up high, right here. That's your first hint. Let's get started on this and see what happens, see if you can figure out the problem. First things first, we'll give this dew claw a quick trim up. So as I get started with this trim, I'm going to give you some background information and some tendencies associated with this particular problem, or this particular lesion. First thing you see that little mark right in the sole here? That separation is going to work up at about a 45-degree angle right where that heel bulb and that sole meet. Number one. Another tendency of this particular problem is that it often shows up on the medial claw and not on the lateral. Now, even though the lateral tends to take a lot of that ground force, that impact force when a cow takes a step, this problem shows up on the medial claw more so than the lateral. Here you can get a good view of the location of that particular mark in the sole, and this location is another dead giveaway to this particular problem. As I begin to pare away here, you're going to notice the angle at which that mark in the sole runs and where that separation is. It's at almost a 45-degree angle right up and going to work its way into that heel bulb area. Now, another common thing with this is it's associated oftentimes with excessive standing times in the summer months, although my personal belief that there's more to it than just standing based on the location and the orientation of these particular lesions. Now, what's happening here is that the sole and this heel bulb area are actually shearing away from the foot itself. That tells me that there's more than just excessive standing, that there's probably some shear force involved here with this particular lesion. Have you figured it out yet? Well, you got time, don't worry. Now, another tidbit of information from the trimmer's perspective is that these lesions tend to heal really easily once treated. They can show some signs of lameness because it is on that medial claw. However, after treatment, these heal up nicely and that heel bulb fills in quite quickly. As we get closer here, you can see where that mark started. You can see where it's progressed so far. We're almost there now. All right, are you ready for the answer? Okay, now be honest, truthful. How many of you said that this was a sole ulcer? Well, if you did, you're wrong. That's not what this is. The correct answer, this is actually called a sole fracture. Even though it has the appearance of a typical sole ulcer, it's not located in that typical sole ulcer spot. It's much higher, and as we mentioned, it's on the opposite toe that we usually see that typical sole ulcer. That's usually associated with pressure from the heel bone, and that's going to be on the lateral claw, which is the one that I'm putting the block on right now. And yes, I'm putting the block on this claw now to take the weight off that medial. Here you can see exactly what that looks like. We're going to get this sprayed up. Hello everyone, welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. You know, sometimes as hoof trimmers, we can find the most obvious problems in the sole of a foot, and that problem can lead to very little separation of that sole underneath. And other times, we can find a minor defect in that white line, can lead to a huge area of separation. That's exactly what we've got here. Not a very big crack in this white line, but what's underneath, well, that's a different story. So if you watched my last video, you remember there was a giant rock that worked its way through that sole and into that corium. Now, it was a big problem, or looked to be in that sole, but ultimately underneath, there was not a large area of separation. Now, in this case, small crack in that white line, there's going to be a big area of separation. Now, why is that? Why do those things happen? Well, it comes down to two variables primarily, the amount of corium disturbed and the duration of time since the insult happened. Now, the corium disturbance part, well, that makes perfect sense, right? But why the duration? Why would that affect the amount of separation there is? Well, the separation is happening as the cow's natural way to try to deal with this problem on their own. By releasing that sole, that is giving space for that lesion to try to heal on its own. That's how this would heal naturally. Of course, we're speeding that process up by removing that sole. Ultimately, we have to take time for that to happen in the wild or in natural settings. That sole would eventually fall away, and that would do what we're trying to do here in just a couple minutes. So as I was trimming this cow, the owner of the farm stopped by, and I want you to listen to what he told me.
This hair was bad, then she got better, then when she got the trimmer.
So what's the significance of that? Well, one of the comments that I see all the time is how did the farmer not catch this? Well, he did catch this, but the cow started to get better. We had a dog once, and he would inexplicably come up lame, but then in a few days he would walk it off, and the vets never did figure out what the problem was. Now in this case, the cow started to get better. Did she do something to cause that problem? Did she have a hoof problem? And that's what ultimately happens a lot of times, is these problems are spotted, but then the cow starts to get better, but hiding underneath that sole is the problem, and that can flare up again, and that's when we see those areas of multiple layers of separation. That's from repeated attempts and repeated flare-ups of these issues trying to heal. That sole underneath is still soft. That's why we're going to put a block on this other claw to take the pressure off of this. Got a little carried away with the amount of glue I put on this one, so I'm going to trim that away with my knife while it's still soft. Now, if you're looking at this right now and saying, no, you got to take more of that loose horn off, got to do it. I've watched a lot of these videos, and you have to take it right now. Wait 1 second here. You saw how soft that sole was underneath, right? This block comes off. I need that there to protect that claw.